guys. I feel as though there's lots and lots happening. And with me today is Carol Ann Cross. Now, for some reason, I'm not able to do what I'd like to do. How strange is this? Carol Ann, at the moment, you're not showing because I cannot get the view. All right. Welcome, Carol Ann.
Thank you. Thank you. Hi, everybody. I'm so happy to be here today. It's been a bit of a rush this morning, but it's all good. All good. Are you on a speaker view instead of gallery?
It's all right. My computer was just giving me a little bit of a hard time. It's all good. Now, was on speaker view. Now we're together on gallery view, and I tend to switch and swatch depending on what's happening.
Yeah.
Before we get started, Carol Ann, I would like to remind everybody that Angel Heart Radio here should never replace your legal, medical, nor professional advice, nor your own sound judgment. Given that, we hope that you thoroughly enjoy whatever you choose to listen or watch here on Angel Heart Radio, because it's always our delight to be here with you. May I also remind you that if you are watching this show anywhere else but on Angel Heart Radio Facebook page, we'd love you to go over to that Facebook page, because then you can join us in the chat. And we always love to see people in the chat. So please, let's get this show underway, because Carol Ann, I'm absolutely delighted to have this topic today, our body messages, because I'm not sure, well, I do know about you. You're very switched on too, because I can remember last year you gave me a little prayer, or how would I explain it? A call out to Archangel Raphael. So about how to deal with our situations. So maybe this is something that we can start the show with, so that people can be aware, like Lynn, who has joined us. Thank you, Lynn.
Good morning, Lynn.
Yep. Now, we can say, Archangel Raphael, please cover me with your emerald green healing blanket. And then we put in what particular parts of the body we would like to be healed. And we can be specific, or we can ask for a general healing. And then I believe it's important to say, I used to have whatever, so that we're letting go, we're asking for whatever it is that is concerning us health-wise to let go.
Yes, that's correct, because one of the things is that our body listens to the words that we speak, and so our body takes those words in, and it thinks that that's the truth. So if we say, I have got a migraine headache, that's implanting that in our body. And so one of the things that we learn, and this is something that we learn in Reiki when we're talking about the mind-body connection, which is a very strong feature of doing Reiki, but any kind of healing, not just Reiki, is that we need to let go of what we're saying. We need to change the wording. I used to have a migraine headache. And then people say, but I've still got it. And I said, and you'll still have it while you keep saying that. I said, you need to do something about your migraine headache, but you also need to change the wording to, I used to have a migraine headache. Because every time we utter words that we have this or we have that, then our body is saying, oh, well, this is okay for me to have this. It's okay for me to be like that. So we need to think about the messages that we're giving to our body, because the mind-body connection is so strong. And this is all about also the work of Louise Hay. And Louise Hay was an absolutely amazing woman. And, whenever we're putting something into our body, we're reinforcing it. And it's not just something like an illness or something like that, but, it's like, oh, I haven't got any money. How am I going to do this? What am I going to do? Every message that we say, we imprint it into our physical body and our spiritual body. And we need to think about what we're saying. So, just think before you say something. And like as regards the migraine headache, yes, medication, you need medication for that migraine headache. But the other thing that we need for any kind of problem with our body is water. Water is the most amazing, amazing thing that we can have. And a lot of the times, I always say to people, oh, if you need to, go and have a painkiller tablet and a glass of water. And quite often it's the glass of water that makes the difference, not the tablet.
Yes.
So we need to keep our bodies hydrated for good health. And, drinking lots of water is one of those things. And they've done experiments of people who have been in pain, and they've given them a placebo and a glass of water, and the pain has gone away.
Yes.
But they haven't had a painkiller. They've had the glass of water, and their body said, I have taken a painkiller so that pain will go away. So the combination of the mind-body connection and the water is just amazing. So, we need to listen to what our body is telling us, because our body speaks to us all the time. So we need to listen to the messages and heed the messages, like the name of our show today.
Yes, absolutely. And isn't it so true? We tend to soldier on rather than putting ourselves first. And I know we at Angel Heart Radio are getting much better at, okay, me first, because if we need to look after ourselves so that we can care for other people. And I know last week, Marnie Perner was with me, and Marnie was saying that she was having a touch of asthma, and she knew that it was her body saying, slow down.
Yes. And if we don't listen to our body, it will slow us down. By listening to our body and heeding the message, when it's just subtle, then resting in that instance and letting the body take over and heal itself. Our body is amazing.
Yes.
The cells that make up our body, the millions and millions of cells, they are amazing. And those cells speak to one another. And that's how we know when we're healthy, because when the cells connect, there's a little light that goes off, a little light connection goes off. And, our cells know, and they talk to one another and they work together. So it's really so important to listen to our body when we get something wrong with it, and change the way we think about it. Instead of thinking, oh, I always get migraine headaches. Why do I always get migraine headaches? So I used to get migraine headaches. I don't always get migraine headaches. I mean, I'm not talking about me in particular, because I don't get them. But, sometimes the things that we do bring about that mind-body connection. And this is where Louise Hay is so amazing when she talks about why certain people get migraine headaches and the affirmations that they can use for those migraine headaches, or whatever their conditioning may be. Because if you are lucky enough to have a Louise Hay book on Heal Your Life, you look at that at things that you used to get and you think, oh, that makes such sense. That is such sense that just I can understand why that happens.
Yes.
And change your way of thinking.
Another excellent person for this kind of work, Carol Ann, is Annette. And her book, The Secret Language of the Body, along with Louise Hay's work, and Annette Noontil, another fabulous woman who wrote The Body as the Barometer of the Soul.
Oh, I haven't got that one.
Haven't you? Oh, because Annette has passed over, as has Louise. However, Annette also wrote about the parts of the car, and if we're having concerns with the car, how that reflects on our life. It's interesting, isn't it? And the more knowledge we have, the better equipped we are to be the best that we possibly can.
Well, yes, that's exactly right. And you know, this comes back to also about where we are in life at this time and why we're here. And look at what interesting times we're all going through at this time. And you know, it's like, wow, how awesome is this? And it's also about, you know, I truly believe that we're all here for a purpose, and we're here at this time for a purpose. What it is, I've got no idea. But I think as long as we are living our life in truth and in gratitude. Can you hear the rain? It's absolutely pouring here.
Oh,
and
is
I've
it?
got a metal roof, and it's beautiful to hear the rain. So if you can't hear me, just let me know. They're just sort of heavy rain showers. But, you know, I believe that if we live our life in kindness and gratitude, listening to our body, taking notice of what's happening around us and within us, then, you know, it doesn't mean we're not going to have shadow times, because that's part of learning and growing in this lifetime. But it helps us to get through these times.
Yes, yes, yes. Listening to our bodies. I love the idea of gratitude, and sometimes to be grateful for what our bodies are saying, rather than go, oh, I've got a headache. No, for me, a headache is lack of water. I know that, okay, and that I go and I have at least a glass of water, and then thank you, thank you, thank you. That little warning is gone.
Yeah, yes, exactly. Exactly. And I talked the other day on the show last week that Annette and I did with Philip Duxfield, and we were talking about various things, and I was telling him about an experiment that happened in Europe, and they did this experiment in an old age home with the people who were suffering, because the show was about dementia and Alzheimer's, etc. And these people were in a home, so you know there was a lot of dementia and things in the home. So they decided that they weren't drinking enough water, because the older generation, the older generation before me, they weren't brought up to drink a lot of water. I know my mother wasn't. And so what they did in this nursing home, it was every hour they would give them a small glass of water. They would go around and they would get every person in that home to drink a small glass of water every hour. And after several weeks, the difference in the people, in their cognitivity, if that's such a word, but, you know, they were different because their brain had the fluid within it, because the water in the brain helps all the connections to work together. And what happens with our sheath around our brain, you know, it needs to be flexible. And if there's no water to keep it flexible, there's no fluid to keep it flexible, then you're in big trouble, kiddo.
Yeah.
And so it was really interesting to do this experiment. And I thought to myself, why don't they do those sorts of things all the time? Why is it they needed to have it as an experiment to see how it went? It should be a part of everyday life. I know our Reiki teacher used to tell us that she wanted us to drink 2 litres of water a day. Well, you can do that really easily in summer, but it's not quite that easy in winter, because we tend to drink something warm more often than not. And so people would say, oh, that's all right, I drink lots of cups of tea. It's not water.
No.
You use water to make the tea, but it's got additives, so you have to drink the pure water. So yes, water is so important.
Indeed. See, I'm very grateful these days, or in the past several years, children are encouraged to have water bottles on their desk at school. So it's not, and yes, to have so many people walk with one now, or have one with them in their bag. Of course, what I've learned, Carol Ann, is it's one thing to have it with me. It's another thing to make sure that I'm sipping on that or drinking that at regular intervals.
That's true as well, because sometimes we just sort of get a bit busy with what we're doing and don't think about the fact that we've got this water bottle, let's drink it. But I'm really encouraged also, like I went out and watched my grandson play cricket a couple of weekends ago, and they're so good. They've got their water bottles, and it was a hot day, so they had extra drink breaks and whatever. And the kids not only take their normal water bottle, but they take big bottles to keep topping up their water bottles. Yes. And so it's completely different nowadays to when I was growing up. Because, you drink your water at home, not a lot, but you would drink your water at home. But you'd never think about taking a water bottle to school or a water bottle out with you anywhere. But, I try always to have, if I'm going out in the car, to have a bottle in the car, because sometimes your body says, I need water. And so,
yes.
It's very good that we don't get to that stage. But if we do get to the stage, it's good to have a water bottle around.
Well, I have heard, Carol Ann, that if we feel thirsty, we're dehydrating.
Yeah. We're past it.
Important to make sure that we're drinking regularly so that we don't get to that. And if we do get to that point, well, then we need to really make sure we have at least a glass. Now, Lynn, who has joined us, is saying that her headaches are triggered from sitting at the computer for too long. I need to remember to drink the water. Take breaks, very important, but also self-care of massages to help with flexibility. Archangel Raphael sure does help. Gabrielle is a whiz with my new projects. The words just seem to come from nowhere. Well done, Lynn.
Boy, that's great, Lynn. That's really great. So about sitting at the computer, our wonderful friend Barry, can't think of his last name.
Barry Ocketel.
Yes, Barry Ocketel. One of the very interesting things that I learned from Barry was that when we're sitting at the computer, every 15 minutes or so, I'm not sure at the time there, look up from the computer and look at something in the distance, and then you can come back to the computer. And it's so much better for your eyesight, because the muscles in your eyes aren't holding it in that one place for too long.
Right.
And so of a morning when I hop up and I check my messages and things on the iPad, I sit somewhere that I can look at my iPad, and then I look out at the trees in my yard, and then I look at my iPad. And I find that to be very helpful, because your eyes get very tired if you look at the computer for too long.
Yes.
So, Barry has got some wonderful exercises and hints. So it's really worthwhile to go and have a look at Barry's information. So,
yes, Barry Ocketel. Oh, well done. Lynn sets herself to a timer, which is good, because I don't know about you, Carol Ann, but I can really get hooked into what I'm doing, and I forget that, yes, I might have been sitting at a computer for an hour or so.
Mm-hmm.
Same with watching podcasts, etc. To think. Yeah. I like, Barry says that if we did these 2 exercises each day, we would see a difference. And one is to rub the palms of our hands together, and so we're creating the energy and the heat, and then to place our palms, cup them over our eyes, and then in time come down the inside, down the nose. The other one is to go out into the sunshine and sun gaze. Now, to close the eyes, but gently rotate the head around, so that we're giving our eyes a beautiful sun bath. Very simple. And just like cleaning our teeth, we need to put those things into our day, because I know I take so many different parts of my body for granted, and I forget to say, thank you, eyes, for allowing me to sit at the computer for an hour. Thank you, feet, for letting me walk wherever I've walked. So it goes on.
It is. And you know, I can remember growing up, our GP, he used to say, your body should function without you feeling it. If you can feel a part of your body, then you know that part of your body needs assistance. So if you have a pain in your arm or a pain in your leg or a pain in your head, then that part of your body needs assistance. You should be able to go through life with a body that you don't feel. So, and that comes back once again to us listening to what our body is telling us. And
Yes.
So we need to trust what our body is telling us. Like I went back to, for the first time in probably almost 18 months, I went back to belly dancing class last night.
Oh, wow.
And, you know, I'm never going to be, no, I'll change that. I almost said something really negative. You know, I don't go with the girls. I used to go with the girls and perform.
Yes.
And I now really go for the fun, the exercise, and to be with the most amazing group of girls.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought to myself, okay, Carol, now when you come home, parts of your body and some muscles that you haven't used for 18 months are going to be letting you know, oh, we need a bit of self-care here. So came home, had a hot shower, had something to eat, sat down and watched TV. And after about an hour, I got up. Oh, that muscle's a bit sore here. So, you know, I moved around and I moved it and I walked around and I did various things. And that then released the tightness that was building up in those muscles. And this morning I woke up and I feel fine. And I thought, oh, look, thank you. But my body told me what I needed to do. My body told me it needed a hot shower to relax the muscle. Then after an hour or so of television, I needed to walk around to get the muscles moving again. And so these are just simple things that we need to think about. I know when I've been out in the garden, which I need to get out in again, pulling various weeds and things that are in the wrong place, beautiful flowers, but they're not in the right place. My body lets me know if I've been leaning the wrong way or bending the wrong way, or I've been going long enough. So, okay, I've done enough for today, so I'll come inside. And then my body has told me that when it's had enough. And so then at this age, I need to listen to what my body is telling me as regards things like that, because, you know, yes, we are a soul and we're in a physical body, but we need to look after this physical body that's the vehicle for our soul in this lifetime. Because, yes, things might happen to this physical body that might be a part of our learning, but it's how we deal with that that lets us know that we have perhaps learned what we needed to know about that. You know, it's really interesting being a spiritual person, living a spiritual life in a physical body and finding that balance between it all.
Because it is all connected. I know Inna Segal says by the time that we notice something in our physical body, the emotional body, that's when we know that there's a lot of work to do. Because, Carol Ann, our bodies hold all of our memories, and the body holds our emotions. So I used to think, you know, stiff upper lip, we're harming ourselves if we ignore our emotions. Our emotions are there for a reason, and it's important that we acknowledge our emotions. The thing is how to deal with them effectively and with love for ourselves and for other people. So yes, I can be angry. It's important that I acknowledge my anger and
Yeah.
then deal with it effectively without striking else out and harming myself or other people. Easily, all of this is really easy to say, isn't it? And the theory
It
is
is.
so easy for me. And then it's how we deal with our situations, the deep
Yes.
breath.
Well, yes, that's right. And you know, like when we trust our bodies with the messages that our body is giving us, and you know, the thing to think about is that there's two ways to react to a situation. We could react out of fear, which can be anger, react out of love. And so we need to think about that. And when we react out of anger, we're just harming our body. And I think that as we grow and mature and learn, we don't react so much out of anger because we know that that's not going to help us in any way whatsoever. And so we need to think about changing the way we react. But that being said, we're here at this time on Gaia, well, at any time on Gaia, Mother Earth, to experience emotion, to experience free will and choice. And so we need to realize that we will experience various emotions, including anger, in the whole gamut of emotions from love to anger. And so then it's about adapting how we act and react to that. So, you know, one of the interesting things also is that a lot of illnesses, our Reiki teacher used to say that things that have got itis on the end of them, a lot of them have come from anger, like hip, appendicitis, you know, and that's an anger and a fear and a fire and all of these kinds of things. She said it's not everything, but a lot of the things that end in itis have come from anger, but it can also be, you know, really inflamed and all of those kinds of things. So if you stop and think about various things like that, so, you know, it's very interesting about the metaphysical connection between the mind and the body. And I think it's really wonderful nowadays that people are taking so much notice about our gut, because our gut and our brain are so connected. And so we need to look after our gut, and we're looking after our brain. And we also are looking after our heart. So, you know, it's I just find it all, it's fascinating, really. You could spend your whole life like Inna. I mean, Inna is an amazing person, and you've met her and I've met her. She's done workshops here at our place. And you know, it's just wonderful that there are teachers like this around, and Louise and all of these people who are able to show us ways that we can help not only ourselves, but other people as well. But then what we need to think about that is, you know, everybody has their own point of view. We can't tell another person what to do. If they ask our advice, we can give them advice. But we can't say to them, I think you need to do this to get rid of what's happening in your body or whatever. And, you know, so we need to look at the whole picture. And I think it's wonderful that there's teachers like Louise and Inna around. Well, Louise is not around, but she's left a beautiful library and a beautiful knowledge for us all to share.
Absolutely. Yes. I find it interesting, Carol Ann, that these particular women came into their mission through dis-ease. Yes. And by being aware of their own bodies and their own body's healing capacity. Now, well, as you said, Louise worked for many, many years here on this planet. Now she's still working from above. And likewise with Inna. I'm also pleased to know that Inna was used to traveling the world. And of course, like many people, teachers, people who go around taking workshops and they're used to speaking to very large numbers of people. Well, of course, in the last 12 months, they haven't been able to do that. Yeah. And they have reverted to Zoom, which means that without the travel, they can speak to people all over the world. Yeah. And just this last weekend, Inna very kindly held a 3-day retreat, which involved 3 2-hour sessions, one each day at different times. And it was free, giving people the opportunity, and it's wonderful to say that almost 200 people took advantage of that situation. And now those 200 people, no doubt, are passing on this knowledge to other people, as we are doing now. The fact that, yes, we can do so much about our own health by tuning into our body. You know, the messages are there for a reason, and it's up to us. We can choose to ignore. However, the body will just get more and more serious until we discover that we have serious health issues because we've tuned out.
Yes, that's right. And you know, the other thing to think about that is, there's a couple of points from that is, like, there are some wonderful things that have come about through what has happened throughout the world in the last 12 months or so.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that the opportunities via Zoom for people like Inna and others and like us on Angel Heart Radio to get to a bigger audience is just amazing. Yes. The planet is absolutely loving the fact there hasn't been so much activity, because Gabby Forrester and I, we do a program on the elementals, and it's just really wonderful when we look about what the elementals do to help us all and everything. But the other thing that we need to factor into this is that sometimes things happen to people in life that may seem very harsh. They may have a severe illness, etc. And, you know, they could be thinking, well, you know, I don't know that I actually did this to myself. So we need to think at another aspect here, and that is that we are here on this planet to learn and to grow as a spirit. So we have chosen a physical body that we may have to have something not nice happens to, or a major illness or something like that. But we need to also factor in the fact that this could have been part of the contract we made to come back in this lifetime. So, you know, I'm not just sort of brushing everything off here saying, you know, we need to listen to our body, because there's other aspects to it. But the part of our show today is about listening to your body. So, you know, that this affects the majority of people. You know, we listen to our body and we do what it says, but sometimes things happen that we need to factor in that this could be part of a contract that was made before we came into this lifetime.
So true. Well, I look at Inna and Louise, and it was through, as I said, their illnesses or their disease. Now, Inna was confined to her bed for weeks. Our own gorgeous Robbie Holtz, same thing. She has managed to heal herself, and again is facilitating other people's healings through her own experiences. And so we're so grateful, aren't we, to have these people as leaders, inspirers, because the thing is, if one person is able to do it, we're all able to do it. I look at Jesus, and, you know, he came in the human form to show us just what is capable, what we as humans are capable of.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
It is. And, you know, just a very short part of my story is I had a severe heart condition that couldn't be help by an operation. It had to be done by medication, which was really horrific in my body. That led us to Reiki. So I'm really shortening the story here. That led us to Reiki, and Reiki helped to cure my heart condition. Now, that was that part of it. But the other part of it was I had to change the way I thought about what was happening in my life, because I had lost my daughter when she was 6. And so, you know, one of the things that Barry said to me was, okay, Carol, now we've looked at we've fixed up your heart condition. Now you need to think about why that happened. You need to look at the metaphysics of why that happened. And he said to me words roughly like, your heart has turned to stone and you have built a wall around your heart. And I got really angry. And I really said to him, that's the biggest lot of BS I've ever heard. And I didn't talk to him for 3 days, which he said was quite enjoyable. But then I stopped and I thought about why my heart had turned to stone, why I had built a fence around my heart. And it was because we had lost our daughter. I didn't want to be hurt anymore. So, you know, I had this very clear picture of why these two things had happened to me. And then I had to think about, okay, so what is the bigger picture here, Carol? And then I realised how blessed I was that our daughter had chosen me to be her mother for those 6 years of her life, and how it was a contract through my work. It was a contract that she and I had agreed to before we both came back into this lifetime. And so once I started to look at the fact that this was the reason why this happened, then I fully healed and I got my life back. And, you know, I say I owe my life, you know, I owe my life to Reiki in many ways, but I also feel that, you know, it was my spiritual change and realization that this was something really bad that had to happen to me in my lifetime, but it was part of the contract in this lifetime. So excuse me, that's why I say sometimes things have to happen in our lifetime, like happened with Robbie and happened with Louise and all of these other people and Inna, because we learn so much from that. And this is about taking from that experience and allowing us to grow in our lives. It doesn't mean that we all, you know, a perfect little, we wake up little saintly people, you and I, Annette, and oh, life is beautiful, blah, 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 nothing ever is going to happen to me. Well, you know, that's not the full story either, because if we don't have the shadow, we don't recognize the light. So we have to have this balance, you know, and we have to realize when things happen in our lives, okay, why is this happening? Listening to our body, but listening to everything else as well. Why is this happening? And then we work towards, okay, so there may be a spiritual reason for it. There may be a physical reason for it. So it's all about how we react and how we deal with that situation. I mean, I didn't deal with Danielle's passing very well for a lot of years. But now I can talk about it. And I know that by me talking about it, I'm hoping that that will help others to see that there is a bigger picture here at work, and it's happening all of the time. And we only live our little microscopic part. We don't see the whole big picture.
No, all we can do is to endeavour to be the very best that we can be. And I know that I have known for several years that our bodies are our temples. We need to honour our bodies. And I know at times I think, oh my goodness, you know, I have abused my body. You know, what kind, we put the best fuel we can into our cars. We care for our cars. Do we care for our bodies? Am I thinking about what I'm feeding my body when I'm going, oh, that looks very nice? And again, moderation.
Yeah. Because if we have that cake or that whatever that looks really yummy, and then we think, oh, I shouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
Then that's not going to, what's our body going to think? You know, so we need to think, okay, so this was a special treat that I've given to myself in nurturing myself and enjoying life. And I'm so grateful I had the opportunity to have that. So,
Indeed.
you know, it's really interesting. Deepak Chopra was on Oprah's show, and they were talking about how to start listening to your body. So just read this little tiny paragraph, if that's okay.
Yeah.
He says that enjoy what your body wants to do. Bodies like rest, but they also like to be active. Bodies like different kinds of foods that are eaten with enjoyment. Bodies like sex and pleasure in general. Bliss and ecstasy don't belong in the souls of saints alone. They course through the body, bringing a sense of ease, lightness, alertness, energy, and exuberance. Your cells feel all these things and want you to feel them too. How do you do this? By learning day by day to pay more attention to what your body is saying. And as the layers of indifference, judgment, and denial peel away, the underlying joyful life will emerge. How good was that?
That is spot on, as I would expect it to be from Deepak.
From Deepak, yes. Yeah. He's really quite amazing. It's so funny. We went and saw Deepak live in Brisbane once, and it was really. And afterwards, I thought to myself, why did that affect you that way, Carol? Because he just walked back and forth about that speed all the way through his presentation. And I thought, I wish you'd just stand still. It's really annoying me going back. And it distracted me. And I allowed myself to be distracted from what he was saying because I was concentrating on the fact that he was walking back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. Like he was not just slowly strolling, he was walking quite fast. And at the time I thought, this is really interesting. You know, maybe I still don't understand why. But then to me later on, I thought, you know, Carol, you allowed that to distract you. You concentrated on that and you didn't concentrate necessarily on every word that he said. So, you know, we need to realize this, we're just in this human body. So we're experiencing these emotions and feelings and choices. So don't be hard on ourselves. Later on, I just thought, oh, well, you know, what I needed to hear would have gone into my subconscious anyway. So, you know, it's the same when we meditate. I know sometimes the girls in my meditation group sometimes say, I think I went to sleep in that meditation. And I'll say, well, that's great. But what you needed to know would have gone into subconscious anyway. So, you know, we need to not be hard on ourselves. Sometimes we're our own worst critics.
Yes, indeed. I loved I love several parts of what Deepak said. What he shared about food. You know, as you too said, Caroline, if we're going to go out for afternoon tea or go to a high tea or whatever, we do so and we enjoy it. There is no point in doing it and then beating ourselves up.
Yeah.
No, we have choices as to how we look at things. And it is interesting how we can get distracted. I know there's a lady who, when she channeled, she walked and she explained before she started a session. She was a pastor in the spiritualist church. And she said, this is how my guide comes through. So I walk. And I'm just wondering whether that was part of Deepak's situation.
Could very well have been, because a lot of these amazing teachers, and how blessed are we to have these amazing teachers and sharing their knowledge with us and channeling messages through, they all have different ways of doing it, you know. And it's fascinating sometimes when you're watching someone channel. I mean, sometimes you're looking at people channeling and you just think, oh, is that just them talking? You know, because they haven't done anything different. And I think years ago we used to, well, I don't know about you, but I used to think that, oh, when someone's channeling, you know, they do something different. So, you know, they're really channeling. They're not just talking. But now I know that, you know, you can be just in the middle of a conversation and all of a sudden you're channeling the message that the person needs to hear.
Yes.
And that's when that happens to me, it's usually I think to myself, oh, where did that come from? I know it wasn't me. So, you know, yes, it could very well have been the way he was channeling that night. So, because I think to myself, you know, surely a person hasn't got all of that like a book, you know, like, and he's seeing the pages in the book as he's talking. That's not the way it works. Yeah, it's interesting.
Now, Lynn is joining in, and she was aware of what you mean, how you can be distracted, because she went to a lovely crystal bowl healing and spent half of the time trying to get a melody. Once she relaxed into it and let it wash over her, she really loved it. How true. To be aware of what is distracting us, yes, and then being able to let it go. That can be the tricky part, of course, Carol Ann. I mean, this is the planet of choice, but it doesn't mean that it's easy.
Oh, it's not. You know, there's an old saying, life wasn't meant to be easy, but it's what you make of it. And you know, I think that that's so true, because the fact of the matter is, if we were handed everything on a plate, then what's the point of being here? You know, if everything was just given to us, we soaked in all this stuff and we never had an ache or a pain, we went through life like a little angel sort of thing, we'd have to come back again, because we wouldn't have learned anything in that lifetime, or we wouldn't have grown spirit, our soul wouldn't have grown spiritually, whatever way you want to term that. So it's not meant to be easy, but it's then about expressing our gratitude for the experience that we've had and realizing why a certain situation has happened in our lifetime. And then, you know, like another thing I think that we need to sort of just mention here silently when we're talking about, you know, listening to the fact that we're a soul in a physical body. I know when my mother made her transition, I had spent months with her because we knew it was going to happen very, very soon. And she was down in New South Wales in Sydney, and she sent me home. And I said, no, I'm not going home. And she said, Carol, you need to go home. You need to go home for a while. So we knew I wouldn't see her again in the physical, because she was a clairvoyant, actually. So, you know, we both knew that. And we laughed and we cried and we did all of those things. And we both said, well, we're going to see each other after I make my transition anyway. So, you know, let's look at that. And anyway, so then I went home for a few weeks, and then I knew I had to get back down to Sydney. And my mother made her transition as my plane touched down in Sydney, her transition. And, you know, that was fine, and I was really good, and you know, I was upset, but, you know, I'm the elder, so, you know, I was looking after everybody, and we did everything we needed to. And I came home, and then it was like, I went into this state, and it was like, I don't understand it. I know Mum is well. I know she's fine. Why is my body aching? Why am I feeling like this? Why am I feeling so sad? Why am I yearning? Why am I this? Why am I that? And I was like that for a little while. And then they just said to me, my guides just said to me, Carol, your spiritual self knows your mother is okay, but your physical body still needs to grieve. And you need to grieve, and then you will be fine. But grieving is a human process, and you need to grieve. And it was like this weight was lifted from my body. It doesn't mean that 5 years later I don't sometimes hear something and think, oh, better ring up Mum and tell about that.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yes.
no, she knows anyway because I've just told her. It's really interesting when we listen to our body. So my body was telling me that it was grieving and it was aching and it was going through all those human things, even though my spiritual self knew that mum was fine. She wasn't in pain anymore, and she was, and she came to me just, only days and weeks afterwards. And so, sometimes it's really interesting when we need to balance out the two, the spiritual and the physical life, and realize that the physical knows, but the spiritual knows, but the physical needs to experience what a physical body needs to do.
Yeah. I delight, Carol Ann, in the way that Lynn is sharing with us this morning.
Oh, it's wonderful. Thank you, Lynn.
Yes. And Lynn saying how her year of ill health brought her to where she is. And to be a better listener to spirit. Aha! To slow down, to listen and to create, to morph into my new chapter. I had the same experience after my mum passed. I knew, but I had to feel the physical grief. That's right, because we're hurting. We know they're okay. However, we miss their physical presence.
That's right. We miss that hug and the just being there talking to one another. So it's really interesting when we stop and look at the overall picture of listening to our body. Yes, we're a spirit in a human body, but this human body is the vehicle for our spirit in this lifetime. So we need to nurture it. We need to look after it. We need to be kind to it, and we need to listen to it.
So true. Oh, isn't it? To keep it simple, because I agree, life isn't necessarily easy. However, it is meant to be simple, and we complicate it so much, and we need to strip back. When we're feeling uptight or whatever it might be, to strip back, okay, what's making me feel this way?
Yeah.
And then that can help.
Yes.
I've got a pain in my leg. Okay, what is it that I don't want to step into? Our legs are all about moving forward. It's interesting, Carol Ann, because in this day and age, so many people have hip and knee concerns. And yet for me, hips certainly are about moving forward. And when we know that the left side of the body is female, spiritual side, and the right side of the body is male and physical, that helps us to interpret some of the pains that we might be experiencing.
Yes, definitely. And just very quickly, many years ago, I was busy doing, housework. We're having visitors that night, and I trod on some glass, and it went straight into my heel because I love being barefoot in the house. I'm barefoot now, and so it went straight into the heel of my right foot, and it was really very deep, and the blood was pumping out. So I screamed out to my husband, and he came and he put his hands on my foot where it was bleeding, and I was raking it. And, in the days before Reiki, it would have been a trip to the hospital for stitches, etc. And then we looked at the metaphysics about it, and he said, who's the man in your life you're getting cut up about? And it was a man at work, as one of the big bosses at work, was causing all of us a whole lot of problems. And I was digging my heels in at work about what he was wanting us to do. And it was like, hello, there's the bright light. Let it go, Carol. You cannot change the situation. So, it's really interesting because metaphysics of our body doesn't have to be complicated. As you say, legs are about moving forward in life. Ankles and wrists are about flexibility. Hands are about how we grasp life. That was to go on and on and on. But, you know, it's really interesting. Our body tells us so much when we take the time to listen to it.
Yes. Well, I trust that we have inspired people. I've learnt some things this morning. Thank you, Carol Ann.
Well, thank you, Annette. I've learned some things from you as well. This is it. It's all about us learning, growing, expressing our gratitude to one another.
Indeed. Indeed. And I know that you're coming on later today as well. Very busy woman.
Yes, it's I'm really not sure what I'm going to be talking about yet, really, because Anaya is unable to join me today, so we've had to change our guest for today, and so I'm just going to be flexible about what's going to happen at 11:30 this morning, Sydney, Brisbane time. Sorry, 11:30 Brisbane time.
Right.
So, you know. Well, I'm guessing that, you know, there is going to be a show. What it's going to be, I'm not really sure about. So
Spirit will let you know.
Spirit will let me know.
I love, you know, we have all of these helpers, don't we? And when we know that things happen for a reason, and I think I know there were lots of people inconvenienced with the lockdown in Melbourne last weekend, and I felt for those people, and I was very concerned about the wastage. However, for me personally, I went, thank you, thank you, thank you. I've used my legs rather than my car in the last few days. So, we are guided and we are looked after. And I think that's something that I now appreciate more and more. And I remember, fortunately, to give gratitude for all my blessings, and Angel Heart Radio happens to be one of them. And certainly working with you, Carol Ann. So our best wishes to Anaya. Good on Anaya for putting herself first and realising that she needs some time. Thank you, Lynn, for being with us. Thank you, everyone who is with us, whether it be live or down the track through a podcast. And please remember, Angel Heart Radio is here for you. So, especially if you're being challenged, please reach out. There's a Facebook page. There's Anaya's page as well. There's Carol Ann. There's myself. Plenty of people to reach out to, as well, of course, professional people. So let's continue, Carol Ann, to be the very best that we can be, and by starting
to realise that we're human.
Yes, and to be gentle with ourselves.
Yes.
On that note, thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Annette. Thank you, everybody, and we'll talk to you soon.
Yes. And I'll be back next week with Janet Hickox. I wonder what the stars have in line for us in the coming month.
Excellent.
Thanks,